Host of Forged in Fire.
Kyle Mann.
I'm Jay Warner Wallace.
Kira Davis.
It's Ben Adams.
Hey, this is Dave Baker.
Carrie Pomeroli.
This is Mike Reiner.
This is Ethan Nicole.
This is Liam Morgan.
This is Graham Parker, the 5th GP, and this is why you should never.
Never.
How I got suckered in.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm here.
You're wasting your time. You got better things to do.
Never listen.
Most darling, yummy, Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. My name is Lucas Pinkett. I'm a real-life pastor, and here with me always is the man himself who just got to spend the holidays with his mom fresh off of her most recent incarceration.
It's Flip Gibson, and I really do drop everything.
It's
ever since you've mentioned it, it's come to my attention more and more.
Yeah, for sure.
I lost earlier.
Yeah.
One of these clips that holds the mics on. I was trying to put it on.
Fantastic. But I think we've got an episode where you lose the entire mic.
Yeah.
Call back to about a year ago.
I was changing the batteries in my Bluetooth keyboard the other day, and the little metal piece that screws in. I had to have Heather come find it.
Did you ever find
everywhere.
the bridge to your dad's guitar? Still no?
Still gone.
Nope. I do love, though, that phone call came with I don't want any flip jokes. Because it's just too painful right now.
But yeah, what's up, Big Bud?
Yeah, not a whole lot, man. Levi had his first Christmas, and it was amazing, except for we realized afterwards that we didn't take any pictures.
Oh, no.
Yeah, first Christmas, like we were busy doing stuff and hanging out, but first Christmas with family, we didn't take any pictures at all.
But also with your memory.
But
you'll remember it all.
Yeah,
you can help to,
for sure.
You have to remind Kirsten.
What I did get, though, was my first real experience of what it would be like to just be saturated in a baby's stomach.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got him on. It's not super strict, because he's an infant, right? But we've got him on a pretty good schedule, like when he eats and what he does and yada yada. Well, he's in a growth spurt, and so he's eating more. So he also needs to work on like his strength. So you got to do tummy time, which I'm sure, and many of you who are parents, that you got to put the baby on their stomach, and then you got to watch them.
I get indigestion
so that they can, so they can like lift their head up, and it helps with reflux and all that stuff. Well, he didn't want to do tummy time on, the little blanket laid out on the carpet. He didn't want to do tummy time on the bed, but like every now and then. So if those things don't work, we'll just put him on our stomach. Well, he'd already spit up on 2 of my outfits, right? So I'm coming to the end of my shift before I pass him off to mom so I can go to work, and I'm not wearing a shirt. So he's just on my tummy, and he just looks at me and he goes, bleh, right? And it hits me. I'm laying down in our bed. It hits me in the neck. So I flap up. I immediately bring my hands to the side of my neck in order to try and protect our bed. My wife is laughing uncontrollably.
Like a spitting dinosaur?
Right, yeah. Yeah, like a Dilophosaurus.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
or frilled dragon.
Yeah, so I bring up my hand frill, right? Which, as you can see right now in the camera, like I've got hair trapped here. Okay, so it's not going anywhere, but I'm getting soaked, right? Kirsten's laughing. I need her to take the baby, and she's like, "Why?" And she looks at me, and there is a pool of baby spit there, right? And so she takes him, but there's not anything handy to just like soak this up. So I lean forward.
So you used your chest hair.
It gets mopped up by my beard and chest hair. Yeah. And my wife, who goes from laughing, she looks at me and she's like, "Oh," she's like, "It's all in your, so go shower." And it was all in my beard, and there's like bits dangling from it. It was really gross.
Yeah, I got to say one thing real quick, which is always just, I thought, odd. That mothers especially, they get really weird when their baby throws up milk, especially from themselves.
Oh yeah.
And I have, I've been around a lot of babies.
Sure.
I've fed them, burped them. It's a natural thing that happens.
It happens.
And I have been apologized to so ferociously. I'm so sorry the baby threw up.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. And I go, yeah, it's fine.
It happens. So I've got a question for you about Heather.
Okay.
When Kale spit up, did Heather get irritated?
No, but we didn't struggle with, his weight, I think.
Okay, so
I'm guessing.
So it's a natural thing, but like I'll hear, and
I'll have to ask her too.
It's not like actual irritation.
I may have not been paying attention.
Right, likely. it's not like actual irritation, but like, okay, so he'll spit up. We'll have to change his diaper and his outfit. And then I can tell because I got the baby monitor on in the other room. Right. And so like I've got the baby monitor in the other room and I'm like cooking or whatever. And I'll just hear, oh, come on. I'm like immediately, oh, yep. He just spit up on a new outfit.
I think I understand that too. And also they've just spent a lot of time getting this thing into them. And now they spit it. You wasted all of this.
Yeah.
Nutrients, things you need to grow, dummy.
Mom's nursed for an hour, right? She's now tired and exhausted from having to wrestle with the baby. Now he's done the thing. He spit up on her. He spit up on himself. Like it's time to change. Yep. She gets him into his new outfit and he's like right at the point.
I'm going to check.
And it always sounds the same over the baby monitor. It's like, oh, isn't he cute? Oh, come on. Yeah. Okay. The other thing that I noticed.
This has been dad-splaining.
And I think this would be a really interesting, we'll get to our episode here in a minute. I think it would be a really interesting sketch is if moms said to their husbands what they say to their babies.
Okay.
Right? So like, but they do it in the voice that they would compliment their husband in. So like you'd have the, oh, you're so strong. Look at you. You're so big. Like those things, right? If Kirsten were to come up to me and be like, oh, you're so handsome. I'd be like, oh, well, thank you. Oh, you're so strong.
But if you said it in a baby voice.
No. Just the regular voice. But also if she came up to me and she was like, hey, good toot, bud. Like, like I would, like I think that would be.
I bet you feel better.
Yeah, like you're doing such a good job holding your head up. I'd be like, hey, wait a minute, what's that supposed to mean, right? So like I do think, and I want to make a list of all the things that she says to Levi because I think that there are some of them.
Do you have some full pants?
Yeah, like hey, have you pottied today?
Did you make
like,
doogie?
Yeah, like, oh, wow.
No, actually, I haven't. I haven't stopped up.
Well, right. So I do think that would be really funny to like just create a lot of
cheese,
a list of things that she says to the baby and just have her just say them to me in the way that she talks to me. Just be like, yeah, you're doing a really good job keeping your head up. Or like, oh, who's a big guy? Or, are you getting sleepy? Does your tummy hurt? Or, are you getting fussy because you're gassy? Like those kind of things I think would be really interesting.
There's a lot of comparisons with
thrown
dads.
Into, just regular
I do
conversation.
Get fussy when I'm gassy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And when I'm hungry and sleepy.
But they're not. But they don't approach it that way, right? I do think that'd be fun. Well, all that to say, on the show today, we talked to the greatness that is Ricky Pope. We talked to him about the ebook that he wrote, The Goal Process 101. I know many of you, as we are, working on your goals for 2023. Ricky not only talks about what the process looks like in order to set goals for yourself, but he also talks at length about how there is no right time or wrong time to start setting goals. I think a lot of us feel like, all right, well, I'm not going to work out until, I'm going to start my workout program on Monday. So that way I'm in sync of it. And it's like the old thing, like the best time to do something or to start something, plant an apple tree. Mm-hmm. What was it? The best time to plant an apple tree is 30 years ago. The second best time is today. So we talk a little bit about that. And then we get into, if you haven't seen it, there's a link for it in the show notes, the Rev and Rep takeover that we did of the Christian Nerds Unite podcast. Ricky's wife finally got a heart transplant, and so she's no longer a cyborg. She is back among the living and is doing well. So there's been a huge answer to prayer for us and all the people in the Christian Nerds Unite podcast group, as well as several other groups that have been praying for her. So we get an update on Marie and then talk to Ricky a little bit about what he thought of our takeover of his show, which featured the Reverend and the Reprobate, Ashley Cox from Fangirling Over Jesus, David Jesse from the Tatooine Sons, a special guest who got hung up on, Doug Tenaple from Earthworm Jim, Neverhood, Cat Scratch, and VeggieTales, Ethan Nicole from the Daily Wire, and VeggieTales and Axe Cop, as well as some guest appearances from Charles Spurgeon. It is an absolute blast of an episode. If you haven't got to check it out again, links for that are in the show notes. And we kind of talk about what the process looked like on our side and on his for what for us was, I'll speak for myself, one of the most fun, just out of the box creative things.
There was a lot of anticipation through the whole episode.
Yeah,
there were things we had planned that we were just
hoping. Yeah, and then we were just hoping came together. And what's so interesting to me about the whole thing is that was like this super high, this moment of like just creative bliss, if you will, that we had, and that was the weekend right before everything happened, where Kirsten's amniotic sac burst, and then we ended up in the hospital for like 4 months after that. It's crazy.
When I became basically a pastor.
Yeah, that's when Danley became.
And also, I'm so sorry, Ricky. There's so many questions that he has on an episode he does with us.
Also Ricky
where I just disappoint him over and over and over.
Yeah, Ricky interviews us in a recent episode of his
on all of my tangled lies.
And essentially, he asks us questions about our show, which are all things that we made up. So, make sure that you give that a listen as well. Make sure to leave us a comment if you like the kind of stuff that we're doing. Let us know about it. Subscribe to our channel. Shoot us a review on wherever you're listening to this on the podcast platforms. That really helps us out. And tell a friend. Tell strangers. Tell who are all the people Alana would tell us to tell. Friendly neighborhood vigilantes. The captain of your neighborhood watch.
Wisps.
Tell wisps. Also, tell
what are those little creatures in the book that we're both reading? Stormlight. Sprints.
The sprints. Yeah, tell your sprints. Tell your sprints. Anyway, without any further ado,
Ricky.
All right, on our sweet, clean airwaves today, Fwip is
General Grease.
Is one of our very first friends in podcasting. One of the guys that's been the most encouraging to us over the years.
Probably the first,
and one of the gentlemen that I think has made one of the more foolhardy decisions in all of Facebook history by turning you into a moderator for his Facebook group. It's the man, the myth, the legend. It's Ricky Pope. What's going on, Big Rick?
Having a wonderful life, my friends.
Well, that is good to hear. But first, man, let's catch up a little bit. Talk to us about how things are going with Marie now that she's got her new heart.
Yes, I can no longer call her heartless. She has an actual heart now. Back in July, she received a transplant and no longer has a total artificial heart. She's doing really great. She was in the hospital longer than we were expecting. She was in the hospital about 3 months, but she has been out since just before Thanksgiving and doing really good. Still building her strength up, and hopefully here in the next month or so, she'll be pretty close to where we were when she went in for the transplant.
That's awesome, man. It's so good to get to follow y'all's story over the last couple of years, because one of the things when we first brought you on was the fact that your wife was a cyborg, right? That was part of the title of our episode.
Hearts existed, number one.
Yeah, for sure.
And that people had them without real hearts and were able to live.
And
was
also
kind of news to me. I had never really heard
Bluetooth
of that.
toilets was part of that very first episode with Ricky Pope, if I remember correctly. So while you guys were in the hospital, Dan and I were obviously we were keeping up with you through not just your Facebook posts, but over text. You had a few weeks where you weren't able to record episodes, and so we reached out to you and said, "Hey, look, we've got an idea to take over your show for a week. Do you mind if we help out?" I'm curious as to what your thoughts were now before we even get to how that episode went, because I do want to talk about your thoughts about that and kind of pull back the curtain a little bit about how all of that came together. What were you thinking when you got that message from us?
When I got that message from you, my first thought was, this will be interesting.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, I knew your show well enough. I've listened to enough of your show to know that whatever was going to happen wasn't going to be what I would have done.
Okay.
But I was okay with that. I was like, okay, this will be an interesting experiment. I don't know if my audience is going to love it or hate it. But if nothing else, I'm going to have fun with it. So I was definitely in with whatever you did. Plus, I was on some pretty hefty drugs.
I will tell you,
Ricky was in the hospital himself. Yeah. We should mention that Ricky, while his wife was in the hospital, Ricky also went into the hospital.
Yeah, twice. Twice I went into the hospital.
Yeah, so he was on medication that was prescribed to him while he was in the hospital. Folks,
yes,
and also administered to him. by medical professionals. So I will tell you that that we had kind of come up with, okay, how are we going to do this an episode for you? One of our very top goals was just to make you laugh because you guys had a lot going on. Mm-hmm. So if nothing else, we were going to hopefully put a smile on your face in the midst of of all of the things you're dealing with.
I think we actually said, like, because we talked about it, I pitched the idea to Danley, and Danley was like, maybe like this, it's just, I don't know what we could pull off. What do you want to do? And I was like, let me talk to Ricky and let's just make sure. He's like, yeah, look, let's not even talk about what we're going to do until you make sure that it's okay with Ricky. And so it gave Dan some time to think about it and kind of mull it over. I talked to you. You're like, hey, whatever you want to do is fine. And so I called Danley back, and I think you were the one that kind of coined the phrase that, like, what this needs to, you're like, I'm in, but only if this episode becomes like a love letter to Ricky from us.
Yeah.
They're like, that's what it needs to be, that we don't need to be making this episode for his audience. We need to be making it for Ricky. And as soon as we got that idea, we sort of
made some decisions.
Yeah. I mean, we started kind of contacting everybody that we thought would be funny, but not funny in the way that, like, we thought they would provide a lot of comedy. More like, who can we put on this podcast? How many people can we get to fight on Ricky's show in an hour? And that's sort of what it became.
That's good stuff.
Oh my goodness!
So
I will tell you, the most memorable moment was David Jesse of Tatooine Sons.
Oh man,
getting slightly nervous.
Oh yeah.
About what might show up on the screen.
Yeah,
there were some curveballs.
Oh dude, there definitely were, and we had told everybody. So we set up a bunch of stuff. Like, if you haven't listened to that episode, we'll link it in the show notes here so that you can listen to it and go check it out. But we called in a ton of favors, and there were a lot of people that wanted to be on that couldn't. But we wanted to do some things that would make Ricky laugh. We wanted to have an opportunity to play some pranks on some friends of ours, which we did. But also, we wanted to see if there were just a couple of things that we thought would be interesting to pull off. One of which was bringing on Doug TeNapel, because we had talked to you. Anybody that knows Doug's been a pretty like interesting and kind of controversial figure. YouTube's now lifted their ban on him, and he's like got his channel back somewhat, but he's lost all his subscribers, and they're kind of going back and forth with that stuff. But you had mentioned that Doug was somebody that you had thought about bringing on the show, and that you didn't have on, and so we thought, what better way to get Doug on the show than this is a person that Ricky wants on. Ricky can say that he had him on the show, but not that he talked to him or had any interaction with him. So he'd be like, yeah, Doug TeNapel's been on my show. Sort of. Doug TeNapel's been on the show. Yeah, so the stuff with David was something that was in the work for months that we were still thinking about pursuing. He had a rather embarrassing moment, which he talks about there, but he's not a fan of. I think it's one of those that, like, if I talk about it, it's okay, but if you talk about it, like, it's not my favorite. So we'll encourage you, if you want to know what that is, listen below. So when you are, because I send you the episode, right? We record the episode. It's got Ashley Cox from Fangirling Over Jesus.
Love Ashley.
Yeah, and we brought somebody on who was just like
that was my favorite.
In love with her. Yeah, this lady saw her at a con and was like, oh my gosh, I love Ashley. I think she's great. And we're like, awesome. We're gonna have you on to talk to Ashley if you want to do that. And she's like, awesome. I was like, we're gonna hang up on you.
This leads to my favorite quote of the episode. Well, yeah. So we want you to come on, have a nice moment with Ashley, but we want to mess with our friends, so we're gonna hang up on you.
Yeah, Ashley's gonna get emotional because she's very sweet,
and she thought it was great. You know, I can't remember her name at the moment. Yeah. But the lady
Amber or something like that. Yeah.
She was into the idea. We have you on, get to say something nice about what you saw Ashley, and we're gonna hang up. and we're gonna watch David and see,
see what David does.
His reaction.
Yeah.
And so the quote that I loved is how it came about naturally. Is she had said what she wanted to about Ashley, and she kind of kept going on about it, and I kind of nudged you. I was like, okay, this is the time.
Yep.
And you said, okay, and you hung up, and you said, and that's it. That was getting a bit boring for us. And
Ashley's like getting teary-eyed.
The look on their faces is just horror.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome.
But it was fully planned.
Yeah, and she was in on it, and we did tell David.
And afterwards, we hooked him up.
Yeah, and we did tell David and Ashley both before bringing them on. We're like, hey, look, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody's a part of the gag except for this person. And Ashley thought we were just doing something for David, and David thought we were just doing something for Ashley, which is one of those things where it's like the same deal with like if if they'll cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. Like that's kind of how we approached it.
Oh, man.
So I send you this episode to review. Right, we haven't talked at all about what it is. You're watching it, I think, on your phone from your hospital bed. Like, what is your what's going through your mind as all of these things are happening? And I've got some really specific questions about some of this stuff because I want to know how it landed, because we really haven't gotten very much feedback on any of it.
So here I will be straight up honest with you.
Yes.
When you sent it, I posted it. Unwatched.
Oh no.
I didn't watch it. I was like, that's so good. I'm happy that something's going out today, and I posted it. And then
could have been
after
so
it
bad
was
if
live
I hadn't edited it
and out in the world, after it was live and out in the world, I watched it. And honestly, I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I wish I could have been there.
Yeah.
It was a fun thing for me. I loved the conversations that went on. Ashley getting all emotional because, her fan was fantastic.
Promptly getting hung up on.
Oh my gosh.
That's something we planned out like a week or two before.
Well, no, like we had just a couple of days to record this.
Okay, well, it was pre-planned.
Yeah, it was pre-planned, but this was...
Quit fact-checking me.
Well, I remember this because this happened on Tuesday. My wife's water breaks on Saturday, and then we're in the hospital with our own kind of fiasco with my wife being in the hospital and then our baby being in the NICU. So this was like the lead up to that week was this sort of insane extravaganza of stuff. So the Ashley stuff and the stuff with David Jesse.
And I really did enjoy the breakaways to is Charles Spurgeon.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what
I love it. He's like just talking, and then all of a sudden he's like, preacher dude.
He goes to the podium. Oh, that was
so we have this game that we play at our church called the debriefing game.
Yeah.
And it started off whenever I was working Fuge camps. This was something that we did. It's like you take an object or whatever and you're like, all right, find a way to relate this to the gospel. And we've got a friend of ours through Holy Smokes is a guy named Jeff Oliver. And Jeff's a brilliant, he works on Hope in the Night and Hope for the Heart with June Hart, with June Hunt. And he's a licensed biblical counselor. And he also does this thing on the side where he impersonates Charles Spurgeon and looks just like him.
Just such an odd thing,
right? And he does a podcast that I produce called the Church Resource, where he vets resources for churches.
Like I think I want to get into the Henry VIII game.
Yeah, right. Like just out of nowhere.
What?
So he's got this whole outfit and everything, and Dan and I have always been trying to figure out how we can use this
what was that spot called again?
For funny. It was Breaking News to Good News with Charles Spurgeon. But we both have this love of like 60s, 70s, and early 80s sort of Meshuggah comedy. Like we love Mel Brooks and that kind of stuff. And so we were like, what could be done here? Well, a couple of weeks ago, David Jesse came into town, and I picked him up from the airport. We went and had dinner. And I'm talking to him and I'm asking him about, that episode, right? And I'm sort of like dancing around some of these things, like, hey, like, it's been a few months, like we're still cool with all of this and like everything, right? And so he's like, yeah, I just, Yeah, like, yeah, no, everything's fine. He goes, I just haven't been able to bring myself. I've been meaning to listen to it. I just haven't been able to bring myself to listen to it. I was like, okay, cool. So nobody knew. Doug didn't know. Ethan Nicole from the Daily Wire and formerly of the Babylon Bee, the guy that created Axe Cup, he was on the show. He didn't know about the Spurgeon's stuff. Ashley didn't know. We just interspersed that afterwards. Nobody knows that that's part of the show, like, still. Like, all of these people that were on, like, nobody even knows that we did that, which is, I think, one of the funniest things that we were able to do.
Because I love it. I love that he's breaking some news, and then he transitions to the pulpit, and he relates whatever he said into a sermon. Is hysterical to me.
Yeah, and it was it was one of those things that came about very organically because it had to do with this game.
Oliver nailed it.
Yeah, and my favorite one is the second one, is that at San Diego Comic-Con, a terrible homicide has been committed in San Diego where DC has effectively killed the Snyderverse. And then as he gets up and starts preaching about it, he talks about it in relation to Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, and then moves to the pulpit, and it was so good.
It was so good. I loved it.
So
I honestly want to have him on my show.
You should.
Oh, dude, yeah, you should. Jeff's great. Yeah, he's
and
an awesome dude.
The best voice of
he
all time.
He really does. It's so cool. So we had the opportunity to Jeff Oliver.
Jeff Oliver's right.
Yeah. So we had the opportunity to do that, which was a blast. And thank you for trusting us with your show during that time. Well, we continue to watch kind of how things have gone with Marie, your recovery as well. You're up and going again. You've done a great series on whether or not horror should be, part of or something that the Christians watch, and why we should pay attention to it or not pay attention to things within the horror genre. You've done a great thing especially on tabletop role-playing games with the D&D stuff that you've done recently. One of the things that fascinates me, and we're putting this out now at the beginning of the year strategically, because one of the things that you do that really fascinates me is this book that you've written called The Goal Process 101. It's an ebook that's available now. What was the impetus behind writing this book, and why do you think goals are such an important thing?
And how many CEUs do you get if you complete it?
Well, I will tell you, so the book actually kind of evolved.
Okay.
Like many years ago, I was deeply into personal development books. I'm reading Jim Rohn, if you're familiar with him. I can't even begin to. Charlie Tremendous Jones is somebody else that I used to follow. A bunch of, if anyone has ever been into multi-level marketing at any point, you have probably run into some of the people I was reading at the time. Jeff Olson,
Are you talking about pyramid schemes?
No, multi-level marketing.
Was it Spark?
Yeah. Any church wife who's ever sold doTERRA? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you in my downstream?
Monet.
Goal setting has always been something I have strived to do for many years, and I started learning some better processes. And then at one time, I needed to make a presentation for a job interview, and so I did the goal setting process that I had created, and I was like, well, that's a pretty decent presentation. I wonder if I could turn this into kind of a workbook. And then the workbook became a little bigger and bigger until it became the ebook that it is today. But one of my big things with goal setting, you're never going to hit a goal that isn't set. If you don't know what you're trying to reach for, there's an old Charlie Brown cartoon where he shoots the arrow and then he draws the target around the arrow.
Right.
And I used to make there's an old joke I used to say. I had to have a to-done list. I go do something and then I write it down and check it off.
Oh, gotcha.
Very satisfying.
But the idea that I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was doing a lot of things, but they weren't equaling anything. And so I started investigating goal setting more. And a lot of what's in the book I gathered from many different places. Jim Rohn being a big influence on the goal setting process that I've set up. But one of the I think one of the most important parts of that goal setting is to look back a little bit. Whether you've set any goals in before or not, what things have you achieved and you are proud of? Something that you're happy that you've been able to do this thing. And once you realize, there are some things in my life that I've accomplished, that can set you up for future goal setting. You were able to do some things. What would it be like if you actually planned for those things? And that's kind of where it's all come from.
Like what?
And planned on being successful in hitting that target too. Is kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we don't always hit the target we strive for. But I have found when I set a good set of goals, I managed to get more done in a year than I would have if I hadn't.
Yeah. What's the old saying? If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So one of
Wayne Gretzky.
This is a false attribution there. One of the things I've realized as I've gotten older is the importance of goal setting, and that it really it's not something that applies to just individual and personal goals. It's not something that just applies to your workout or weight loss or nutritional goals or things like that. But it really does. It can apply to your family. It can be something that is taken and applied to your job, whether you're in management and you've got a big goal for it, or whether you are a sales guy or a frontline guy, and you say, hey, you know what, I want to increase my productivity by 1% or 2% or whatever. You can set those goals for yourself, as well as in ministry. And I think one of the areas where a lot of people fail to set goals is in ministry. And I think we use the excuse that, I don't want to put goals because I don't want to put limits on the Holy Spirit or this, that, and the other, right? So as a person who's now written on goals, you've been in ministry, you've had ministry goals before, what is your, response to people that say you shouldn't set goals in ministry?
This is one of those situations where I kind of go, well, do you plan your sermon for Sunday morning?
No.
Well, and there are those people that don't.
Yeah, that's true.
But
they got a lot of followers on TikTok.
But I think that's a similar idea.
Yeah.
That, you study for your sermons, you plan what you're going to say, what the point is, why you want to choose this scripture. I don't think that setting goals is something that has to be separated from spiritual things.
Okay.
I used to be a worship pastor, and I got some guff from one of my friends because my service was always very scheduled,
right,
very planned out, and his was never planned out. And he was, his comment was, what if the Holy Spirit? I'm like, well, the Holy Spirit can do what he wants to in the moment, and he can nudge me and I can change.
Yeah.
But I'm going to plan it ahead of time. The Holy Spirit can move me today just as much as he can move me Sunday morning on stage.
Yeah.
And I think goals are the same way. If you are a person of faith like me, when you're working through your goals, you need to be praying over those and asking God, what is it that you want to see me doing over the next year, 5 years, 10 years? I'm working right now with a ministry partner, and we're setting some pretty lofty goals to be working with seven different ministries internationally over the course of the next year. If we don't start setting some goals, start planning out how we're going to find those ministries that we're going to be working with. We're just going to keep working with the one ministry we're working with today. Can God move in the moment? Absolutely. But God can also move me today.
And I think one of the things that's so interesting, especially about that point, is like when we see somebody, for instance, like King David, right? When David goes to fight Goliath, he's only successful because he's been in battles before, right? He's been prepared for it. He's used the weaponry that he's had. And when, you wouldn't go up on stage to play songs you've never played before on an instrument you never practiced on, or
I'm
any
on
of that
drums
stuff.
today.
Yeah, like that's not going to happen. And so I think we discredit some of that preparation. Now, this is the beginning of the year. That's why we've got you on talking about this. I really think that there's a very important thing for people to understand, because I think a lot of people set goals in January, and that by the end of January, those things have totally been blown up.
That's why I don't do it.
Yeah. What would you say to people about the importance of setting goals, and no matter what the time of year it is? Like, all right, if January our goals have been blown, my New Year's resolutions are over, does that mean that I shouldn't have goals for the rest of the year, or should I reassess and reset in February?
So first, let me approach it this way.
Okay.
I've never liked the term resolution, New Year's resolution, because most people set New Year's resolutions like this. I'm going to do such and such every day. And 5 days from now, they miss a day. And then they miss another day. And then they just stop, like Dan said. They just stop.
It's easier to just
But
not
setting a good goal, setting a good goal has a definitive endpoint, something that you can say that is quantifiable.
You can measure it.
And you can measure it, that you've put a date on it. Those are the things that I think make goals better than what some people would call a resolution. Now the other half of that is, it's March, I can't start goals now. I've already missed the first of the year. Start it anyway.
Yeah.
Almost all spurts of weight loss I go through are in June, around depression birthday. And I'm serious. I can track. Like I'll start losing weight, and it's all around my birthday where I go. Oh.
Yeah, I can track it too, because we've been filming this show for 2.5 years, and you can watch like our faces like Kool-Aid Man up and then shrink back down.
Well, how good of a goal?
Well, I was gonna say one other thing there.
Go for it.
Is along those same lines, there's an old saying that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The next best time is today.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with goals.
Wayne Gretzky.
It would have been better.
Paul Washer, actually.
Planting a tree sounds like George Washington.
Or Johnny Appleseed.
No.
Nope.
Go ahead.
So it might have been better if you had set goals, a year ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Or before the first of the year. But the next best time to set your goals is right now.
Sure enough.
And another thing that I always recommend when you're setting goals, don't just set goals for this year. Write a big list of goals. Now, you're not going to focus on all of them, but set goals that are this year, set goals that are 5-year goals, set goals that are 10-year goals. Set some crazy goals that you think there's no way I could ever accomplish this. You'll be surprised that just having written it down, you'll get closer to it because you start thinking about it.
Would you rate our goal of abs by Christmas 2025 on a scale of 1 to 10?
Actually, 1 to 6, because that's all the abs we're going to get. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've just tacked on a year right now on this part of the program. Yeah, it was one of our original goals on the show.
It's a goal that we've set and we have continued to talk about over the years.
Yeah, and we continue to push it a little further away.
Kick it down a little bit. So if you had to give it a rating, what would you give it?
Yeah, 5.
That is not a bad goal. Now, here's what I recommend when you're setting a goal like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you've set the goal, you've chosen a date, abs. I don't know how you define abs.
You know them when you see them.
Loosely.
You know
abs
abs when you see them. I don't have to describe abs. When we go like this and you go, whoa, those are abs. That's it.
Our wives have no working description of abs because they've never seen them. You're going to come in on Christmas Day and Heather's going to be like, what's that?
It's 2025. It's almost Christmas. Look at it.
These are abs. She's like,
Check it
gross.
out.
That doesn't jiggle at all.
Christmas time.
I just have one very large ab. Just one.
Yeah, I keep my six-pack under eyes at all times.
So to your point,
What you need to do-
measurability.
Yeah.
In
So
this
what you
case,
need to do now is you need to break that big goal down
Into one ab.
smaller steps. Smaller goals.
I want this ab by
One ab.
March.
I need 6 of them. I need 2 abs.
Every other month you get an ab.
Quarterly, I need 3 abs.
Oh my gosh.
This is a podcast where a bunch of fat guys talk about
Yeah.
Oh, now that's a niche podcast.
So 1.3 abs per month.
That would be super niche. It's just fat guys.
Christian abs. Christian fat abs by Christmas 2025.
Oh my gosh.
1.3 per month on average.
I think if we did a podcast that was just us talking about having abs and eating candy, it would just be, what are you guys do? Oh, we're eating cake and talking about having abs. What are you going to do next week? Maybe pie and abs.
We're going to have abs by Christmas 2025. We're eating candy right now.
Oh, man. It's a preload. We're in preload.
Yeah. Cutting begins next month.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will say the most important part of reaching a goal like that is to divide it up. Figure out, what are 3 things you need to do to be able to see that goal come to fruition.
Have motivation.
And then if those things are still big, if those ideas are still too big,
Not our guts.
split those up into 3 more things.
Gotcha.
That's good. Break the problem. Make the
so-
problem smaller.
Yes, and the smaller you can break it down, the easier it is going to be for you to see some progress toward the big goal.
So on a molecular level, what's the issue with your abs?
Surrounded by all this ramen.
Well, Ricky, as you know, we end all of our interviews with a segment that we call Controlled Rowdiness. This is just a series of rapid-fire questions.
I think this was controlled rowdiness.
Well, it's close, which you can answer with as lengthy or with short a response as you want to. There are no right answers, but there are several wrong ones, so make sure not to step on any of those landmines, and expect nothing from us by way of reply or response. To get us started, I'm going to send it over to General Grease.
Hey, so previously on previous episodes, previously on the Rev and Rep, you've described your wife as Cyborg, right? Relating her to the character. So now that has changed, I'm wondering, is she now closely related to Iron Man, who in the MCU had the part removed,
the arc reactor,
and some healing of some type, or is there another character that you think fits better?
Yes, that is a good. That's a good example.
Okay, cool. So from Cyborg to Iron
Maiden.
Woman.
Yeah, Iron.
Or Rescue? Rescue is the name of
Ironheart.
Yeah, but
Ironheart's the character that we're about to see in the MCU. So
but RDJ had the arc reactor taken out,
and then Gwyneth Paltrow was Rescue.
Was Spare.
Which Flash villain has the dumbest name?
Reverse Flash.
They put no effort into that.
No.
What's the bad guy called? Reverse Batman.
Reverse Flash.
Opposite Superman.
Cool.
What is the weird Superman name?
Bizarro
Superman. But he's still Superman. He's just Bizarro Superman.
He is. He's just pixelated.
It's weird Superman.
Yeah, me too.
DC tries so hard with their villain names.
Yes.
Okay, you get a team up of one comic book character of your choice to take on aliens and one Bible character, probably from the Old Testament would be my suggestion. But whatever you want to choose. One team up, taking on aliens. What is it?
Taking on aliens. Let's go with David and the Thing.
Oh, nice.
That is an interesting pair.
Yeah.
Why do you choose that? I'm curious.
David's good with his sling, so that you've got your ranged weapon there.
Right. Also, pretty good strategist.
Good strategist. And the Thing just has brute strength.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's made of rocks, so if David needs a rock for his sling, he can just,
that's good.
Grab a piece of Thing.
That's an interesting. I was thinking Elijah with the. Okay, go ahead. Your question. The correct answer was
he could have. I would have used like Jesus in the Second Coming, right? Because the whole like army of angels and stuff coming behind him,
and they're coming in the sky.
Yeah,
so
they're
like
already there.
So he's going to take care of whatever else is up there.
No, but if you want to go with the sling and the Thing, then that's
the sling and the Thing. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Last question here. Is Dwayne Johnson's nickname The Rock because there's only one facet to his personality, where if they would have named him the Geode, he would have been multifaceted? Yes or no?
I'm going to go with yes.
Okay, there you go.
Dwayne Johnson is much like other actors like Ryan Reynolds. Mm-hmm. Let's see, who else? There's a few others. They only played themselves. They never.
Keanu.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is a good one. Yeah, Keanu Reeves doesn't play characters. He plays Keanu Reeves in every movie he's in.
Yep.
Ryan Reynolds doesn't play Deadpool. He's
plays
Ryan Reynolds.
Bill Murray.
Yep.
Bill Murray.
I want some distance from Bill Murray after the recent news.
No, but I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is Bill Murray is always Bill Murray playing a movie character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never the character. He's always Bill Murray looking at the camera.
I think Chevy Chase is the same way too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he always plays like an aloof jerk.
I love him for it though. Such great characters.
Sorry, Tom Leopold.
All right, what's up?
All right, Ricky. Tell our
I
audience,
would put The Rock in the same place.
There you go. Tell our audience where it is they can follow you, find you, and get a copy of the Goal Process 101 ebook.
Yes, well, I am the host of the Christian Nerds Unite podcast. You can go to ChristianNerdsUnite.com to find all of that stuff. You can also go to thegoalprocess101.com to get a copy of the ebook.
There you go. Dude, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, it was good.
It's been a blast, guys.
It was awesome catching up, man.
Ricky freaking Pope. I love having Ricky on the show. It's always a blast. It's really cool to see how Marie has recovered from all of her stuff, especially since, when we started the show, Ricky and David Jesse have been really great
friends of the
show, right?
Yeah,
for
sure.
The Jessies in particular, all of them, including Christy, they gave David was in town. They gave Levi a really cute Jedi outfit, overalls, and he got a Grogu cap. That's like a little bucket hat. It's absolutely adorable. So they've been great friends of the show, but the Jessies have done it for a while. Ricky started around the same time that we did, and it's just been really cool to watch the community around the Christian Nerds Unite podcast grow, and then just the way that our friendship has sort of blossomed, and him just being like, yeah, I don't have anything to do. If you guys want to take the show over, I mean, go for it. and then finding out that like he posted it sight unseen. Mm-hmm. That was the thing where he was just like, no, I'm going to trust you.
Yeah, that's an endorsement of his trust.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't think we did anything terrible. I don't think we did anything bad
but
at all.
I don't know that was earned trust. I think that was
that's what I'm trying to get at.
That was no, he's in the hospital on narcotics, and he was like, Lucas is a pastor. Surely this won't be too whatever.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, well, we didn't quite get there, but
no.
There was a lot of stuff, man. It always a blast having Ricky on. Make sure that you check out. Yeah, congrats to Marie. Make sure that you check out the Goal Process 101 ebook. As a matter of fact, I am going through it right now as I'm setting my goals for 2023. It's a really great tool, and not only is it something that you can find useful for personal use, but also for corporate stuff. And it goes to help and support Ricky as they're going through what continues to be kind of a touch and go time. So if you want to support Ricky and you want to get some accomplishments this year and have a good way to do it, check out the Goal Process 101 ebook. Thanks so much, Ricky, for coming on the show.
Yeah. And if you're a Christian, you're a nerd, and you're on Facebook, you're halfway there.
Yeah. Make sure that you check out the Christian Nerds Unite podcast. Links for all that stuff is going to be on or in the show notes. And until next time, you guys stay hard, keep jamming, and we'll see you.